Hey everybody, welcome back to our Identity Bible Study series. This is week 3 and we are talking about personality type today. So last week, just as a quick recap, we talked about how God has entrusted a very specific kingdom mission to you in this season, and that is your spiritual gift. Spiritual gifts are things that are entrusted to us by the Holy Spirit, and they are the way that He makes His presence known in and through our lives. Our spiritual gifts are how God reaches others through us, and they are such a beautiful and sweet privilege because it's God allowing us to come alongside and help grow His family and expand His kingdom and make Him known and build up His people in love. Every one of our spiritual gifts is valuable, it's important because it is a little piece of who God is. And so when we all come together corporately and walk in our giftedness, express our spiritual gifts, the world gets to see a more full picture of who God is, and we get to bring a little piece of heaven to earth. So spiritual gifts are special, and I hope you are getting excited as you become more familiar with what your gifts are and are even looking for some opportunities to begin to exercise those beautiful giftings in your church and in your home and with your friends and all around you. So I hope you're doing that. If not, come and talk to the church staff. Come and find out some ways that your gifts can be used in this body. We'd love to come alongside you and help you find some opportunities because there is no fulfillment like walking in the purpose that God has designed you for. This week, we're talking all about temperament, which is something that, while spiritual gifts might change from season to season, your personality type is something that you're born with. You came into this world with a plan for your life. In fact, Ephesians tells us in chapter 2, verse 10, we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand so that you'd walk in them. So there's a plan for your life, and then also there's a specific way that He's designed you to accomplish the plan that He has for your life. In Psalm 139, the psalmist says, "You formed or created my inmost being." Now, the inmost being is the mind, it's the heart, it's how we see the world, it's how we view our settings and how we proceed through life to accomplish the things that are in our mind and on our heart. And so what the psalmist tells us is that God put everything that we need inside us and wired us specifically so that we would accomplish the goals and execute the spiritual gifts that He's placed in us in a very specific way. You are intricately and intentionally designed with purpose. And so today we're going to talk about how you are wired to accomplish the goal that He has for you, to achieve the works that He's prepared for you. So today we're going to be talking about 4 main personality types, and those are represented by 4 animals in the animal kingdom, and you'll soon see why. And those are the lion, the otter, the beaver, and the golden retriever. Now, you might have seen other personality assessments out there, and there are many. You might have also seen these 4 animals labeled in what we call a DISC assessment. You have your D, I, S, and C personality types. And so we're going to dig a little bit into what each of those are and how they move through the world and why they're valuable, and maybe a couple things we could work on or be aware of when we interact with other people who don't have our same personality type that might help us be a better team player or appreciate others and be careful with them a little more intentionally. So we're going to look at these 4 personality types today, and hopefully you've already had a chance to see which one you favor. We'll typically have one that we rank highest in. You might have a couple. You might be a mix of a couple of the personalities. And if that's the case, we have a little handout for you this week that shows you what it looks like if you are a blend of a couple of those. We've gone into a little bit of detail so you can see the little subtle changes if you happen to be both a lion and an otter, or a beaver and a golden retriever. If you share qualities of both of those, that's okay. And that just means that you're specifically tuned a little bit differently And most of us are a blend of the different temperaments, but we want to get a high-level picture understanding of these 4 basic temperaments today. So we're going to dig right in with the first personality type, which is the lion. Now, let us get a show of hands today. If you scored highest as a lion, would you just raise your hand? You might find in the group that you're sitting in that there aren't too many people raising their hands, and that's because lions are the rarest of all the temperaments. There are only 10% of people who have this particular personality type. And it's important and valuable that they do because they are the natural born leaders of the pack. And since not everyone can be in charge, these are the people that God has uniquely wired to be that take charge person in a room or in a setting. So we see here that we have a couple of characters from movies that you might be able to resonate with. These very much embody the lion temperament. If lions had a mantra, it would be, let's do things my way. Lions take charge. These are strong-willed, natural-born leaders. They are ready to express their opinions. They are great at making decisions. They are super goal-oriented people. So they are going for results always. That's why we started with you, because we knew you were ready to get into it. If that's your personality type, you wanted to know right away. Lions are brave and motivated. They forge a path. They don't always want to hear all about the minute details of a situation. They are people that want fast, hard, bottom line details, and they want to charge ahead. Even describing them this way, you can see that lions can be very aggressive. They are motivated by achievement, and they really need, as a personality, they need respect. They feel like they need control in order to feel important. Something that lions fear is loss of control. And so when that happens, you might experience the aggressive side of this temperament. You might hear them roar a little bit. They get defensive. They don't want help. They want to decide how things are going to go. They have a plan. Some people read that as being intimidating or unapproachable or even mean. Some of the temperaments read that as ugliness, which really typically they're not trying to be ugly. They're just very aggressive personality types. They're just wired that way. One of the things that we really need lions for is that somebody has to take charge. So many of the other temperaments are very cooperative in nature, but we all need someone in the room who in a situation can step up and say, let's do this. Let's make a plan. And lions are excellent at that. It's one of your greatest strengths. One of the great things about the strong leader that you are is that you make people that are following you feel very safe and secure because you bring order, quick order to a chaotic situation because you can make decisions quickly. Not all of the temperaments are able to do that. Some of them really need to think and analyze, and they might even get stuck trying to figure out how to be cooperative and agreeable and how to figure out the best solution, whereas lions are ready to go. They're like, let's move. And that is very valuable. That is something that you bring to the table that not everyone else can do. A second really great strength of a lion is that they are a truth speaker. You never have to wonder where you stand if a lion is in the room. They are going to be very direct and very clear about their opinion, where they're coming from. If there's something wrong in a situation, they're going to address it. They're not afraid of confrontation. In fact, many lions like confrontation, if you can believe it. Some of us other temperaments, we don't like confrontation. We actually are afraid of it, but lions are not afraid to just handle what needs to be handled. And that makes people, again, it makes people feel safe in a setting where if you're on a lion's team, you know they're going to defend and protect you. And so that's very valuable, that you are willing to say the things that are hard, willing to speak up if a situation requires it, willing to defend and speak up for those who may not be willing or able to defend themselves or represent themselves. You bring safety and security, and you bring a plan to the table. And so that is so important and so valuable. and such a great ministry that you are able to lead naturally. And some vulnerabilities for you might be your negativity and your insensitivity. So a verse you might want to meditate on in order to keep you sensitive to the other temperaments who maybe aren't as take charge as you are, and maybe are a little more fearful or uncomfortable with confrontation and direct communication. Just remember, Proverbs 15:1 says, "A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." It's going to be a lot easier for you to lead and go about taking charge and getting that control that you crave if you are gentle with the people around you. Just remember, they don't always handle things the way you do. They don't always see the world the way that you do. They're not maybe as proactive in making a plan and action-based as you are. So try to be sensitive and careful with your words and how you communicate your plan as you lead to those who you are entrusted with. So personality number 2 is basically the polar opposite of the lion. This is our otter. And if you think about otters in nature, they're so cute. They're usually snuggling, and you've seen them laying on their back, like hugging their little babies, and they're playful and silly and just so much fun to watch. So let's see a show of hands. Does anybody score highest as an otter? About 25 to 30% of people are otters. They are the life of the party. They're so much fun to have around. Their mantra is, "Let's do it the fun way." They bring joy and adventure. Here are some personalities in movies that you've seen that are very easily identified as an otter. Buddy the Elf certainly is that let's do things the fun way and celebratory and energetic, and so is Miss Poppy. Otters love people. They're playful, they're social, they're positive. They enjoy being popular and influencing and motivating other people. They tend to be outgoing and joyful and creative, fun, adventurous. They're risk takers, and they can be very spontaneous. They love change and surprise, and they love to be the center of attention. Otters like to hurry to finish jobs. They don't tend to be super detail oriented. They are a people person all the way. So what motivates an otter is approval and fun experiences. They love recognition. They love praise. They just really need people to love on them. Otter personalities usually have lots of friends, lots of acquaintances, lots of following. They don't tend to have a lot of deeply rooted friendships because they don't sit still for too long. So one of the things that an otter temperament fears is disapproval. They don't want to feel unloved. They will entertain you and tend to not burden you with your problems. So if you know an otter, probably they know everything that's going on with you, and you probably don't know too much about what's bothering them or burdening them. You may not know about the things that they are walking through that are difficult because they wouldn't want to burden you with those things. So the world needs otters because this talkative, outgoing, responsive, warm, friendly, enthusiastic, and compassionate person is so great at building people back up. The world tends to beat us down, and when we are experiencing hurt and disappointment, you just bring relief and joy by being in the room. You're such an encouraging and celebratory presence. You love others well. You help people keep going when they feel like giving up. Your pure joy has a huge influence for good, and the way that you foster creativity and group activities, it's medicine. In fact, there's a Bible verse that seems to have been made just for you, which is, "A cheerful heart is good medicine." The challenges that you face as an otter are going to have to do with relationships. And one is just being aware of how people might be perceiving you. So because your temperament is more life of the party and celebratory and tends to seem more surface level because you're wanting to do things the fun way, other more intense or detailed personality types might see that as superficial. They may not appreciate that as much because they are trying to achieve goals, or they're trying to discover the details or analyze things. So there may be some conflicts with other personality types because they're not really sure if you're very serious as a person. And so if you ever feel that resistance, it's just because they're not sure how to take you. Well, you're probably not sure how to take them. You're probably seeing them as a bit of a stick in the mud, but that's just how they're wired. So we have to understand that sometimes the different personality types have a hard time understanding each other and seeing the value in one another. So details are important, goals are important, but it is very valuable what you're doing to uplift and encourage and give people hope and bring joy into a situation and make people feel seen and let them have some fun. That's important. And so the other challenge to do with your temperament is, because approval is so important to you, you have to remember that your value and your identity have nothing to do with people's approval of you. In fact, there's a Bible verse you should meditate on, which is Luke 6:22. Blessed are you when people hate you and ostracize you and insult you and scorn your name as evil for the sake of the Son of Man. Don't forget that there are going to be times when, as much as you reflect the joy of the Lord, people might not understand that. And if they reject you, if they push you aside, it does not mean that you are not loved and valuable. Do not stop being who you are. Do not be discouraged, because persecution of the things of the Lord is just part of our experience as Christians. So don't let the way people interact with you or the way they approve or disapprove of you impact your ultimate goal, which is to honor and glorify the Lord, to make him known through your temperament. So you keep going knowing that you are greatly loved and valued by Jesus Christ. He has bought you, he is for you, and it says in his right hand are pleasures forever. So you are a reflection of him. So do not dim your little light and your playful, social, loving kindness. Keep it going. It's very valuable to the kingdom of God. Okay, now we come to the third personality type, which is our sweet golden retriever. Let's see a show of hands. Who is a golden retriever in our group today? Golden retrievers make up the majority of the personality temperaments. There are 30 to 35% of all people who have this particular temperament. And if you look at our examples from movies, again, you can see that these are sweet, servant-hearted team players. They are loyal and they are great followers. They tend to be very obedient. They are good-natured. They love people. They're affectionate. These are your classic people pleasers. They are just servant-hearted people. Your mantra, golden retrievers, is let's do it the easy way. Here's a little bit about golden retrievers as a temperament. They are servant-hearted. They tend to go with the flow. They're easygoing. They don't have to be center stage like a lion and an otter. Golden retrievers are the ultimate best friends, just like their animal namesake. They don't want to be the center of attention. They don't want to come up with a plan. That actually stresses them out. They are great at making friends because they're just so easygoing. They're quiet. They're dependable. They're amazing listeners. They're super trustworthy. These are the people that always show up to help when you ask for volunteers. If you need help with something, they just show up and say, just tell me what you want me to do. I'll do anything that you need. They are very nurturing and they really, really care that everyone is okay. They tend to be peacemakers. And so they crave very deep, very close relationships, and they're very loyal. So retriever personalities do not like big changes. They like predictability. They like routine that makes them feel safe. They absolutely do not like conflict, and they are uncomfortable with change. And this is really important to remember. They are the steadying or the steadiness personality. They like for things to remain. They're very sensitive people, very caring. They just want everyone to be okay. They don't want any bumps in the road. They don't want anyone to be upset. They want to be loved by everyone. They look for appreciation. They're energized by service. They want to be useful. They crave being appreciated and needed. And their fear is that they would be unappreciated and not needed. So they tend to show up because they have that desire to be useful. So golden retrievers, the world so needs you, because some temperaments can make a plan and they don't want to deal with the details to execute it. Some personality types tend to see all the problems, and some personality types tend to want to have more fun. But you are taking care of all the other temperaments. You're making sure that everybody has what they need and that they're doing okay, and that everybody's plans get executed. You are the one who shows up to meet everyone's needs. It's so important and so valuable. Who would a lion be with no one to follow and execute the plan? They would be nothing without you. So you are so important in helping accomplish the goals and the plans that some of these more aggressive and goal-oriented temperaments, they need to have you to help execute their vision. Your care and nurture and service are so very important. Nothing would get done without you. So you are helpful and valuable in every way. Now, for the golden retriever, the challenge is boundaries. While it's important for you to be useful and it's important for you to make sure everyone's okay, it's also important for you not to get taken advantage of. So if you are always showing up and always saying yes to your own detriment, people might not know that you're getting exhausted and worn out and not taking care of your own needs. And that's really important for you to do. One of the things that you need to work on as a temperament, one of the things you always need to be aware of is it is okay for you to say no to people. It's okay to say no to a task. They're going to be okay if you're not available for one thing here and there. So don't feel like you're letting everyone down or causing a problem because you have to use your no and create boundaries in your life. It's important for you to do that. We always want to make sure that our primary goal is pleasing God and not wearing ourselves out and being out of balance for the sake of making sure everyone else is okay. So make sure you build some accountability into your life. Get a line in your life that will help protect you and safeguard you, absolutely. But make sure you're prayerful about your own boundaries and use your no. There's a Bible verse you can meditate on it from Galatians 1:10. It says, "For am I now seeking the approval of man or God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." So in all things, prioritize your relationship with the Lord. Make sure you're getting filled up and make sure you're being motivated by serving and honoring the Lord above all. You are not a servant of all. I know your desire is to take care of everybody, but ultimately that's God's territory. He's going to make sure everybody's okay. So you stay in line with him and honor the boundaries that he lays on your heart. Let people safeguard you and use your no. You are such an asset to the body of Christ and to the kingdom. And we are so thankful for what you bring to the table. Okay, now we're finally at our last personality. So we've seen the lion who wants to do things my way. We've seen the otter who wants to do things the fun way. We've seen the golden retriever that wants to do things the easy way. And now we are finally at the beaver who wants to do things the right way. You beavers are about 20 to 25% of the population. Here are a couple of examples of beavers in movies. Now, if you think about a beaver in nature, for example, one of the most interesting things about beavers is that they build a dam, right? That's what we know about them. But the reason why beavers build a dam in nature is because they don't like the noise that the water is making. They're trying to create quiet. And that is so indicative of this personality type. Beavers don't want all the chaos and the noise to be happening. They want to plan for every possible disaster so that there's order and quiet and things go smoothly. So beavers are responsible, they're detail oriented, they are perfectionistic, they are planners, they have extremely high standards. In fact, they tend to be their own worst critics. They love to organize. They probably have everything in their home alphabetized. They love spreadsheets and color coding and labeling and analyzing things. Beavers love rules and details. they are very creative and artistic and careful and strategic. Now, if you have a problem, the beaver will have a solution. They are masters of planning and critical thinking. Beavers think there's a right way to do everything, and this is a blessing and a curse. Typically, they're right. They want to do it in the exact way that they see. Beavers have a desire to solve everything. For example, Sherlock Holmes was a beaver. They want to take their time. They want to do things right. They don't want sudden changes. They don't want to be rushed, and they need lots and lots of reassurance. They are energized by accomplishment. Beavers have a strong need to be right, and they need you to recognize that they are right. That's important to them. Their greatest fear is that they will make a mistake that you will catch and that you will criticize them. The worst thing you can do is point out something that a beaver did wrong, because probably they already know that they did, and they're already beating themselves up about it because they're such perfectionists. They hate making mistakes. They hate being unprepared. They don't like being embarrassed, and they don't like surprises. They want there to be a plan that is getting executed. They just want to feel prepared. So sometimes beavers can seem inflexible or slow to decide, or their standards might seem too high. They tend to be loners, and they tend to be more focused on the task than the people around them. But here's the important thing about beavers. They are catalysts. They inspire improvement. They raise the bar, and their detail-oriented nature is important in so many professions and projects. For example, you absolutely do not want an otter doctor who's careless with details but just wants you to have a fun experience. You want someone who's very detail-oriented and perfectionistic to be your surgeon. You want them to care and have researched and to know the most up-to-date trends and to be very cautious with their plan. That's what you want in a surgeon. So there are situations where the details really do matter, and so you're going to bring that to the table. Other temperaments don't have the patience to build the plan, to do the research, to care so much about things being excellent and right. But you will always bring improvement and raise the bar. You will catalyze excellence wherever you go because you care so much about things being right. And that is a good thing. Another thing you bring to the table is logistically, you think through all the problems before they occur. So you help to prevent any undue stress before anything ever takes place. Such a great asset for a team. If you're a beaver in the room, you're going to be mad at me for even telling you that you have a weak spot or a flaw. But I wouldn't be doing you justice if I didn't tell you that there are things that you can work on. Now, because you are a perfectionist, because you are your own worst critic, you probably already know your weak points. Something for you to keep in mind. Because you have a standard that is so high on yourself and you tend to be your own worst critic, you tend to hold everyone else to that standard as well. You want them to want to do things the right way just as much as you do. So you can tend to seem very inflexible or stubborn or even like cranky in the way that you approach things because other temperaments are more easygoing or more focused on other things, or they want to go now. They don't want to take time to analyze. And so that can be frustrating for other temperaments. And it can discourage other temperaments because they can't possibly achieve the standard that you're setting for them. So something that you have to work on in yourself is flexibility. Flexibility with other people and also flexibility with your own plans. You may have decided that this is the best way to do things, but it can't always be the plan that you've come up with and created. Even if that's the best possible way, sometimes the best thing for the team is to go another avenue, to try a different way. And they may come back around in the end and realize that your way was better, but sometimes you have to loosen your grip on your plan and let other people do things in their way. There may be a time for the lion to lead quickly. There may be a time for fun to win. There may be a time for harmony to win. You may not need to drive your point home that something is wrong. Maybe people aren't emotionally in a place to handle that at that time. So the group dynamics are going to play a big part. in whether it's time for the right way or not. And you have to be sensitive to that with the other temperaments that you're working with. So a good verse for you to meditate on would be Proverbs 16:9, which says, "The mind of a man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." So just know that if you feel frustrated because they're not doing things the right way, if we could improve, but we're not improving as you see it, just know that even beyond what you're able to see, we serve a sovereign God, and people are going to learn through mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes. And sometimes that's going to happen, but we need to be forgiving with others and flexible with others and understand that God is in control. And you reflect him in a lot of ways because his standard is perfection, but also we have to remember grace, grace, grace. Mercy triumphs. So we have to let that rule and reign in our hearts as we interact with others as well. So now that we've discovered the 4 big temperaments, it's important to come back together as a collective and understand the value in every temperament. You know, in any given situation, there is a time when the easy way is going to be the best way. There's a time when the lion's plan is going to be the best way to go about things. There's a time when things need to be right and correct, as the beavers would suggest. There's a time when we just need to do it the fun way and play and laugh and be joyful. There are different circumstances where all of these temperaments need to shine. And there's a reason why God has placed this in you. Whatever temperament you are, that is how he wants you to go about achieving the goals that he's given to you, in executing the plans that he's given to you. Now, we have to take into consideration and respect and value all of the temperaments because they are all a reflection of the Lord. There are times when we see Jesus being a lion, when he's flipping tables and demanding there is one way. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me. We see him operating as a lion. We also see him filled with compassion and serving and meeting needs and washing feet and feeding people and providing wine. We see him being that golden retriever that just wants to love on people and let them feel seen and valued and cared for. So we see Jesus as a golden retriever. There is absolutely a case to be made for Jesus being that beaver temperament. Everything he does is perfection. He is without sin. And then we see that Jesus is very affectionate and he draws a crowd. He's magnetic in his personality. There is great joy when he's around, that he's providing wine at weddings, that he's bringing joy and healing and laughter and love wherever he goes. So each of these temperaments is a reflection of our Savior. They are all important and valuable. And so know that you were given the temperament you were given as a reflection of God to accomplish the purpose of God in your spiritual gifts. So lean into that. And I challenge you to look at what your spiritual gifts are and then look at your temperament and start to think of ways, why might God have specifically place those together within you? How can you see your spiritual gift and your temperament working together well? It'd be great if you all take some time to talk about that, how your spiritual gifts and your personality type might work together. And maybe you can even help brainstorm with each other, give each other some ideas as you share how those might be working together and how you might proceed in accomplishing great things for the kingdom. So next week when we come together, we're going to be talking about sacred pathways. These are the unique ways that God has created us to connect with him. So this is one you won't want to miss. It's something that might be new to you, and it will definitely open up some new excitement about how you can connect with God and how he wants to connect with you. And he's wired you specifically and knit you together intentionally to have a special connection with him. So we'll talk about that next week. Hope you have fun digging into your temperament and personality and really learning to appreciate and enjoy who you are and who others are and what they bring to the table.